A language can be dissected into a series of logical relationships, one of the most simplistic of which is that which exists between auxiliary verbs, subjects, and objects. So, the relationship is, I'll explain the relationship with the example of devoir comprendre quelque chose, to have to understand something. So, an auxiliary verb is one in which two verbs are combined together seamlessly within the same clause. Now, if you don't know what an auxiliary verb is beyond that, without that simplistic definition, then you have to go and find that information somewhere else. I will try and make a video on English grammar. So, with an auxiliary verb, you're taking two verbs and you're connecting them together. In this instance, the first is devoir. This is the auxiliary verb. Certain verbs, when using certain verbs, one can connect them seamlessly to a subsequent verb in order to create, in my opinion at least, a complex verb, a new verb, like a superverb. So, devoir, to have to, comprendre, to understand, devoir comprendre, to have to understand. So, you take the auxiliary verb, devoir in this instance, and you combine it with the subject in the normal conjugatory pattern. So, devoir combined to the first person subject is je dois. Then there's a variation in this relationship with nouns and collective nouns. And again, if you don't know what a noun or a collective noun is, find the information elsewhere. One takes the second verb of the auxiliary verb, so in this instance, comprendre, and this follows the first part of the verb, the devoir, which has been conjugated to the subject. Then, the object, as I say, if it's a noun or a collective noun, a physical, abstract, or collective noun, follows the combination of the two verbs. So, je dois comprendre la grammaire. I must understand the grammar. So, first part of the auxiliary verb, devoir, conjugated in normal fashion with a subject, je. Second part of the auxiliary verb follows the first part, and then the object, if it's a noun, follows the verb, the second part of the verb. Now, the second variation of the relationship is for objects which relate to the first, second, or third person. So, or we or them. So, le, me, te, le, les, nous, and vous. These types of objects come between the two parts of the auxiliary verb. So, in the same way, you take the first part, the devoir, and you conjugate it to the subject. Vous devez. So this remains the same. This part of the relationship is just a normal conjugatory pattern. Then, instead of the second part of the auxiliary verb following the first part, as was the case in the first example, the le or the me or the te is inserted between the two. So instead of vous devez comprendre le, it's vous devez le comprendre. So, je dois comprendre la grammaire. Vous devez le comprendre. Les enfants doivent comprendre la situation. La situation, it's a verb. And it comes at the end. It comes after the second part. Pouvoir faire quelque chose. It's to be able to do something. Je peux le faire. Je peux le faire. Tu peux faire ça. Nous pouvons tout faire. Some of these words, like everything and nothing, they can come before or after. So you could say nous pouvons faire tout, or we could say nous pouvons tout faire, or you could say nous pouvons faire rien, or you could say nous pouvons rien faire. We can do nothing, we can't do anything. Or so some of these words, this category of nouns, can be located before or after, but they're very few. You'll be able to remember them very easily. But that's not the case for other nouns. So you couldn't say pouvoir voir quelqu'un, quelque chose. You couldn't say il peut l'homme voir. You can't take a noun, a physical noun or an abstract noun, and rotate these in and out of the two systems. That doesn't work. It's only like rien, nothing, and tout, with which that's a possibility. So, je peux voir is I can see you. Vous is of the first category, the ones which come between the two. Il peut voir l'homme. L'homme, it's a noun. It comes afterwards. Il peut, normal connection between pouvoir and the subject, il. Second component within the auxiliary verb, immediately following the first, and then the noun. Ils peuvent voir tout. Ils peuvent tout voir. Can be either one. Vouloir avoir quelque chose, to want to have something. Je veux l'avoir. Le, one of the category that comes between the two. L'enfant veut voir son ami. The child wants to see his friend. Les entreprises veulent tout avoir. The businesses want to have everything. So that could also be les entreprises veulent avoir tout. Vouloir faire quelque chose is to want to do something. Je veux le faire, I want to do it. On veut faire ça, one wants to do that. Ça, it's a bit exceptional because it's a kind of like le, ça, c'est là, celui-ci. Yeah, you'd think they would be like le, but they're not. They're treated like nouns. Vous voulez faire quelque chose? You want to do something.